In this particular lecture, students, we are taking up the two systems of ASCARIS. The very first system is the digestive system, and the second one is the excretory system. So, I have taken these two systems together because these are both related to each other to some extent, but their organs, they are altogether different. So, in the coming slides, you will be seeing that Ascaris has got a very simple kind of systems. So Ascaris is known for its simplicity in the body systems, in the organ systems. Now, students, first of all, if we talk about Ascaris, it is belonging to the phylum Aschelminthes. So that means it is a roundworm and it is present inside the intestine of the man or the host. It can be any host. Now, this Ascaris, it has got a layer of cuticle over the whole body. So it is also secreted by the, you can say, the outer body wall. So Ascaris is, if you take the morphology of the Ascaris, this is again very simple, as we have discussed in the previous lectures, that the male was shorter than the female was straight, and the male was curved from the hind end. So that was the difference in between the male and the female. So these systems, the digestive and excretory systems, they are altogether similar in both male and females. The only difference is in the outports, as we have the anus on one side in the case of females, and in the case of males we have the cloaca. So this is a very small difference in case of the male and female in the digestive system. Otherwise, if we take the excretory systems, they are very similar in both the cases. So students, if we take the general body plan or the general system plan of Ascaris, so you can very well see that the whole body is altogether very simple. So it starts with the mouth, it ends with an anus. So that means, so you have a very complete kind of digestive system. So if you further see some of the other systems, as it is containing an ovary, so if you see this particular yellowish part, so this is the ovary. So that means this is a female Ascaris. And if you see on the top, it is the cuticle. So this is the outermost layer that is present in the Ascaris, and this also helps in the lubrication of the path inside the intestine or in the host. It also serves to protect the Ascaris from the juices of the host. So this is the mouth, this is the very first part, and this is the anus at the very last part. So that means it has got a complete digestive system. So we have an excretory pore. So this is the excretory pore. So I have told you in the morphology that excretory pore is just behind the mouth. So we'll be taking up this particular system in few minutes. So this is the ovary, the yellow part, and it has got a pseudocoelom. That means it has got a cavity inside its body, but it is not a true kind of a coelom. So pseudo refers to a false kind of coelom, which is not true. So pseudocoelom, it is containing a fluid which is revolving around every and each organ of the Ascaris. So it is called as the pseudocoelomic fluid. So students, that is the general body plan of the Ascaris. So in the coming slides, we'll be taking up now the systems of the Ascaris. So students, we are starting with the very first system now, and that is the digestive system. Now, if we go with the digestive system of ASCARIS, as I have earlier told you that this is a very simple system. So it starts with the mouth, it ends with the anus. So we can say that digestive system of ASCARIS is complete. And this digestive system is straight also. So there is no convoluted kind of a thing. It is, you can say, spirally arranged or anything like that. No. So alimentary canal is straight and it is complete, and it is a tube-like structure extending from the mouth at one end and to the anus to the other end. So students, if we see the diagram of this system, just see. So this particular orange line, this is the alimentary canal. So you can very well see that this is a very simple, long tube which is present inside the body of the ASCARIS. Now this particular digestive system or alimentary canal, I should say, as alimentary canal along with the digestive glands, it is called as the digestive system. So if you add the glands into the alimentary canal, so it forms the digestive system. So here we are talking about the alimentary canal first of all. So students, it starts with the typical mouth. So this is on the top, it is on the anterior end. So this mouth is a tri-radiate aperture, as I've told you earlier in the morphology of ASCARIS. So it is a tri-radiate aperture. It is situated at the tip of the ASCARIS. And as we have discussed in the morphology, it is guarded by 3 lips. So the lips are not 2, they are not 4, they are 3 in number. So mouth, it is the first part of the digestive system. Now secondly, we have the pharynx. So the mouth, it is opening into the pharynx. So this is the second part. So it is a very short, you can say, a part of the alimentary canal. It is cylindrical and it is somewhat thick walled and it is muscular also. So this pharynx, the wall of the pharynx, it is consisting of like radial muscles, and the wall is also containing some glands which are called as the pharyngeal glands. So internally it is lined by cuticle. So you can say this pharynx is a round structure, a ball-like structure, you can say, somewhat pipe-like. So this is also containing the digestive glands. So the dorsal part of the pharynx, it is containing the pharyngeal glands. They are also called as esophageal glands. In some books you may find them as esophageal glands. They are also called as the pharyngeal glands. So numerous groups of the radial muscles, they extend between the inner and the outer boundary membrane of this pharynx. So these radial muscles, they are helping in the contraction of the pharynx. So this is a very important thing. And if you cut out this particular pharynx, you have a lumen inside it, the open space. So this lumen is also triradiate. So it is a triradiate lumen which is present in the pharynx. So this lumen has a cuticle lining. So if you see the TS of the pharynx, you can find it out very easily. So it has got many radial muscles and it has got the pharyngeal glands also. So those glands, when the food enters into the pharynx, these glands, they are secreting their juices. Now this pharynx, it also helps in ingestion of the food to some extent. So whenever the ascaris has to take food inside the mouth, the pharynx, it relaxes to some extent. So when it relaxes, the internal lumen of the pharynx, it increases in volume. So whenever the volume increases inside, the food is pulled towards the mouth. So here the pharynx can help in the ingestion of the food also. So this is one of the functions of the pharynx here. Okay, if we take the next part, so some books they may give you the next part as esophagus, but esophagus is so small that it can be eliminated out from the alimentary canal. So you may write as like mouth, then you have the pharynx, then you have the next part which is the intestine. So the intestine, it is the major part of the alimentary canal. So pharynx, it is followed by the intestine. You may write as like esophagus is opening into the intestine. So a small valve is present at the junction of the pharynx and the intestine. It stops the food from going back into the pharynx. So there is a small valve in between the pharynx and the intestine, and it checks the backflow of the food into the pharynx. So once the food it comes into intestine, it cannot go back to the pharynx. So it is a one-way kind of traffic. So intestine is somewhat dorso-ventrally flattened. So this is an important feature. So intestine is not round. If you cut a TS of the intestine, you may find the dorso-ventral flattening. So it has got a brush border. If you talk about the lumen of the intestine, it has got a brush border, and the intestinal cells, they are columnar cells, and they are brush bordered. And outside it is the cuticle which is present in the intestine also. So here you have the gland cells, and inner free margin of the cells, of the intestinal cells, they are having the hair-like projections which are called as the microvilli. So that's why we call it as a brush bordered intestine. So these are the microvilli which are increasing the surface area for absorption of the food. So these are present in the intestinal part. And if we talk about some like muscular layer in the intestine, so it is near to absent in case of intestine. So the next part is the rectum. So as you can very well see here in the diagram, we have the rectum. So intestine is followed by a very short part which is called as the rectum. It is also dorso-ventrally flattened as it was the intestine. The wall of the rectum, it is consisting of again the columnar cells, and they are lined by the cuticle, and externally the wall of the rectum has got the muscles also. So that means the rectal part can contract to some extent. So in the male, so this is a very important point. In the male, the rectum, it is opening into the cloaca. So this is the difference. If you have the male ascaris, rectum is opening into the cloaca. But if it is a female, as here we have got a female in the diagram, so you can very well see the yellow eggs present in the ovary. So this is a female. So this here the rectum will be opening into the anus. So here I have written anus oblique cloaca. That means if you have a female, it will be anus. If it is a male, it will be cloaca. Now, the anus, it is a transverse slit. and it is guarded by lips also. So, as the mouth was guarded by lips, anus is also guarded by lips. So, it has got two lips. One is the anterior lip and one is the posterior lip. So, the anus has got two lips which are guarded by a special muscle which is called as a depressor anti. So, they are called as the depressor muscles. So the anus and the cloaca, they both lie at a distance about 2 mm from the tail end. So this is again a very important point. Anus or cloaca, they are not present at the tip of the ascaris on the hind end. They are somewhat behind the end. So as you can here well see that the anus is present somewhat on the upper side from the hind end. So this distance is about 2 mm. So students, that was I think all about the alimentary canal. So what happens that when the ascaris is taking in food from the mouth, it first of all is taken by the pharynx. The pharynx has got the pharyngeal glands or the esophageal glands. So these glands, they are digesting the carbohydrates, the fats and the proteins. Three types of enzymes are secreted as we have discussed earlier in the tinea or the fasciola. So I'm not giving you the details of the physiology of digestion. You can go with the tinea or fasciola in the previous lectures for the digestive process. So when the food is digested in the pharynx, both mechanical and chemical digestion occur in the pharynx. So as pharynx is a muscular organ, it can digest the food mechanically also with the help of the radial muscles. So then the food enters into the intestine. If we cut out the esophagus, so after the pharynx, through the valve, the food enters into the intestine. Now here we have the intestinal glands. So these intestinal glands again further digest the food, and ultimately the food is absorbed from the villi or the microvilli of the brush bordered intestinal cells. So that food, absorbed food, it goes to the pseudocoelomic fluid which is present around the intestine. So as the intestine is bathed in the coelomic fluid or pseudocoelomic fluid, all the absorbed food will go into that fluid. So what is left is the undigested food or the remnant of the food. So that will go to the rectum. Rectum serves to store that food for some time, and when it is full, the food or the undigested matter or the fecal matter, it is egested out through the anus or cloaca as per the sex of the animal. So students, that was all about the digestive system. In the next slide, now we are talking about the excretory system. So this is a very, very important system in case of ascaris, and this is again simple, though the diagram doesn't look simple, but it is a very simple system. And if you go by the physiology of this particular system, it is very, very easy. So first of all, for the excretory system, we must be very clear that this system is supposed to be formed by a huge excretory cell at the juvenile stage of the ascaris. When the ascaris was forming, it is in the juvenile stage. So there was a cell which was called as the rennet cell, RENETTE. So rennet cell, it has formed this particular system. So if you see this particular structure, this is a nucleus. So this is the nucleus of the rennet cell, and this cell is forming the excretory system in ASCARIS. So this is a very, very important thing that you should know. So first of all, this is a system which is formed by a huge excretory cell. And secondly, nowadays scientists have seen more of the nuclei in this particular system. So that means if you have more of the nuclei, so that may be an aggregation of the cells. This system is formed by many cells rather than a single cell. So now some scientists they think that this particular system is formed by the combination of many rennet cells because they have seen many nuclei. So I'll be taking up those nuclei in later stages. So first of all, I'll be taking up the excretory system as the general term is concerned. Now this excretory system is again very simple. If you see, there is no flame cell as we have seen in the case of tinea and fasciola hepatica. That was a different phylum. So that were platyhelminthes animals. But here this is an aschelminthes animal. So this is a roundworm. So we don't have any kind of flame cells first of all. Here we have a very typical H-shaped excretory system. So you should write it that ASCARIS has got H-shaped excretory system. Now the diagram on the right side or the B diagram, you can very well see the H shape of the excretory system. Two arms are going upward, two are going downwards, and in the very center you have the network of transverse canals. So that makes an H-shaped excretory system. Now, if we go further, this particular system is consisting of two longitudinal canals. Now, this is the first part of the excretory system. So, in the ASCARIS, we have got two longitudinal canals. So, this is the first canal and this is the second canal. So, they are going backwards on the lateral sides. So, these are again the left canal and this is the right canal. Now, in the exterior, if you see the morphology of the ASCARIS, you may see two uh, lateral lines in the ASCARIS. So these lateral lines, they are actually the location of these two longitudinal excretory canals. So students, I think you are clear about the excretory canals. So these are two in number, they are going backwards. If you see the next part, this is the anterior canal. So we have two anterior canals. This is the first and we have a second on the left side. So that's why it is H-shaped. So this is the anterior canal and this anterior canal is somewhat smaller. It is like rudimentary. It is very small as compared to the posterior longitudinal excretory canals. Next we have a network of transverse canals which are joining these two longitudinal canals on both the sides. So here two anterior canals and two posterior canals, they are joining together to form a network. So this network is also called as a plexus. So this is a plexus of transverse canals. So if we go further, this is the pore which is going out. So here you should be very clear that the urine, it is coming upwards in these two longitudinal canals. So whole of the excretory waste products, they are taken up by these two canals and it is going upwards, it is coming upwards, and from the anterior canal it is going downwards. They both meet at the transverse canals at the plexus, and finally the urine, it leaves into the excretory pore. So this is a common pore for the excretion, which is present over here. So this is the excretory pore, and this particular plexus is present near the mouth. As you can very well see, this is the plexus, and it is very close to the mouth. Now, if we see this pore, we are talking about the excretory pore. So this pore, it opens near the mouth. So after going into this particular system, you can very well answer that why the excretory pore is close to the mouth. So this is the answer to that particular question. Now, if I come to the rennet cell, now we have already we have discussed that this is one of the nucleus of the rennet cell. Now, the scientists, they have seen more of the nuclei. One nucleus is present over here. It is present on the left longitudinal canal. One nucleus has been seen on this excretory canal, and one nucleus has been seen on the transverse network here. So up till now, 4 nuclei have been seen in this particular excretory system. So that means 4 rennet cells, they have combined to form this particular excretory system. So this is a supposition. In the coming times, maybe there may be found more of the nuclei. So up till now, we know about 4 nuclei in the excretory system of the ASCARIS. So students, I think you are very much clear about the excretory system now. So it is very simple. It has got 2 major canals. 2 are going from the lower side, they are the major canals. 2 are from the upper side, they are very small in size. So there is a transverse, you can say, the connection between these canals, and this connection is leaving into the excretory pore, and this pore is opening just behind the mouth as a common excretory pore of ASCARIS. So that's why it was near to the mouth. So this is the whole excretory system. Thank you.